So good morning, everybody. This is the training on the Grant Instructions and Requirements, or GIRs, and the Notice of Sub-Award, or NOSA, for the State Fiscal Year 22 VOCA, or Victims of Crime Award. I'm Julie Linsmith with DCFS, and also helping with the training and facilitating part of it will be Jean Booth. And with that, we'll get started with our agenda. So today we're going to go over the Victim Services Unit, review the NOSA Sub-Awards, or NOSAs, review the GIRs, and then have a little competition on do you know your GIRs, and then at the end there's our contact information. So to start, the Victim Services Unit is comprised of 4 people right now. Erica Pond is our manager, and she handles the high-level items and oversight of the program. I'm Julie Linsmith. I'm the Social Service Program Specialist. I oversee the program and work with the whole unit to get tasks divided and accomplished. Additionally, I do our federal reporting on our grants. With us, we have Jean Booth, and I'll let Jean introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jean Booth. Most of you are pretty familiar with me. For all our newbies, I am the Grants and Projects Analyst, the GPA, for the Victim Services Unit. I've been with DCFS for about 3 years, and I've been focusing mostly on victim services grants. So I'm kind of the go-to for any initial questions that you might have, or any concerns that you might have, and then anything that I need to pop up further, I do for you. So I'm really excited that all of you came to this training, and I look forward to this new fiscal year with you.
And then we have Tracy on, but I'll go ahead and introduce her just for convenience, since it's always hard to mute and unmute everybody. Tracy's our management analyst, and she's the one who processes your guys' request for reimbursement. So you might get emails from her asking for additional documentation or with follow-up questions, and that's Tracy's role with us. So with that, we'll keep going, and I'll give it over to Jean, who's going to talk about the Notices of Sub-Awards.
All right. Hello, everybody. So we're going to talk for a few minutes about the NOSA. When you receive the NOSA, you're going to want to review the document prior to signing it. It has quite a few pages. Let me pull up my little notes here real quick, so sorry about that. So it's got quite a few pages, and you're going to want to make sure to review all of these sections just to make sure that you understand what the requirements are for your NOSA and for your award for this particular fiscal year. Next page, Julie. So this is the NOSA signature page. The first thing you're going to notice is the agency reference number up in the top corner. This is your sub-award number. So anytime you have questions on your VOCA award, if you can use this reference number to ask the questions, that way it helps us to make sure that we're talking about the same award. This changes with every grant that you receive from our agency, but so you want to make sure that you have the correct grant number for when you're talking about your award with us, if you have questions with it. The next thing you're going to want to check on this is your subrecipient name. We want to make sure that we have the correct name and the contact name and email address. Just to make sure, if you need to change this, you have to go to the Secretary of State's office or the Controller's office. There's web pages for both of them. We can't change this until it's changed in both of those offices because it has to match what they have on file as well. So the next thing that is inclusive of that is your address. So make sure that the address matches what's on your name. And if it's not the right address, again, you have to change that with the Controller's office and the Secretary of State, just to make sure that we all have the correct information, because we're just not allowed to change that until it's changed in there. The next thing you're going to want to check is that your EIN, your vendor number, and your Dun & Bradstreet number are accurate. We go ahead and look these up and make sure that they're what's off of the website, but every once in a while, you know, we're human, we make typos, and sometimes we transpose numbers. We do our best to make sure and double check that everything is accurate on these, but if you can just double check and make sure that those match what is on your file, that would be helpful. The next thing you're going to want to look at is your approved budget categories. This is taken directly from your budget narrative, and I'll be working with all of you to make sure that we're on the same page with what's approved and allowable on your budget, and it's all in the right spot. So just make sure that this is what you've agreed upon and that you're okay with what's in your budget categories. And then the final thing is the match information. You're going to want to make sure that that is the accurate match information that we have shared with you, and that we haven't accidentally transposed numbers or forgotten to put the match waiver on if you did, in fact, put a match waiver request in. Okay, next page. The next thing you're going to want to check is the approved indirect rate. This can be 0, 10% de minimis, or if you have a federally approved indirect cost rate number, that would be where that is placed as well. If you do have a federally approved indirect cost rate, you do have to provide the letter to us so that we can make sure that we have that on our files as well. And then you're going to want to just make sure that you read over the terms and conditions and all the sections that are inclusive in this document, because you are agreeing to follow all of these. You're going to have the authorized subrecipient's signature and date, and then send that back to me, the whole packet. So I would advise that you have somebody read over the document before you sign it and return it to us, because there are a few things that you do have to make sure that you look at and fill out through the document. So the next section is section A. These are the grant conditions and assurances. You're going to want to read these because by signing the NOSA, you are agreeing to follow them. There's a lot of information. There's confidentiality stuff in here. There's a lot of information about what we require for our subrecipients in this section. When you receive your NOSA, it'll be obviously much bigger than this, and you'll be able to read it a lot better. Okay, so section B, these are the description of services, your scope of work, and deliverables. This is the scope of work that you guys have turned into us so that you are aware of what your what our expectations are of your agency. This is what you've told us that you're going to do with the funds that we've given you. So this should be unique to each individual agency, and you're just going to want to read this over and make sure that this is in fact what you've agreed that you're going to do with the VOCA funds. Section C is the budget and financial reporting requirements. This is where you're going to find your budget narrative. So this is the breakdown of everything that is on your budget and what you've agreed that you're going to pay for with the VOCA fund. Okay. On this section, sorry, you'll actually also have a statement of what to put on if you're going to have any printouts like flyers, brochures, or anything printed with VOCA funds. There's a statement that you need to put on there, and that's up at the top of this particular section. Okay, sorry about that. So section D, request for reimbursement. This is just a sample of what the page you'll look like when you submit a request for reimbursement. You don't have to sign this page. This is just an example of the form that you're going to submit each month to us with your budget information and your request for reimbursement information. Once you fill this out monthly, it'll look different than what's on your NOSA page. This is just an example for your NOSA, so you know that that is what you're going to be filling out. Section E, this is the audit information. It is required that every agency that expends or that receives $750,000 or more in federal funding has to do a yearly audit. So if you receive a total of $750,000 or more from federal funding, you do have to do an audit, a single audit. If you receive less than $750,000, you have to do a financial review. So this section you have to fill out and make sure it's filled out as completely as possible. And then you do have to submit your single audit or financial review to us in a separate form, just so that we have it on file and can review if if necessary. But just make sure that you do know that it's $750,000 total federal awards. It's not just VOCA, it's your total federal awards. So if you're getting VOCA and FIPSA and SAPTA, all of those added together, if that's over $750,000, you do have to do a single audit. A lot of people get confused about that. They think it's just a single award. It's your total federal awards for your agency, not just a single award. So if you have questions on audits or this section or any of the NOSA information, please go ahead and contact me, and I'm super happy to help you with that. The next section notifies us of former or current state employees. So you need to fill this out, and you're not going to get penalized if you have a state employee working for you or if you've had them working for you in the last 24 months. We just need to make sure that they're not being paid twice for the same position. So they can't be a case manager in your position and a case manager in our position and getting paid from us to do the work that they're doing with you. So we just need to make sure that that is, that they have the separation and there's forms filled out. So please go ahead and fill that out to the best of your ability and know that you're not going to get penalized for having a state employee. It's fine. Section G is the confidentiality addendum. This is basically you're agreeing to keep everything confidential with your clients. So make sure you read over this and the requirements for the confidentiality. Section H, this is the matching funds agreement. The top section in this is your program information. This will have your name, your subrecipient number, your contact information, and it'll have all the information on what the award amount is, the total award, and then what your match requirement is. And at the bottom of this page, you're going to see the financial summary for matching funds. This is what you've told me that your match is going to come from. So if you have volunteers, it'll come from your personnel section. If you're going to match with operating funds, it'll come from that section. This section is just so that we know what you've agreed that you're going to do match with. Okay. The next slide is for Appendix A. This is the specific VOCA assurances. You're going to want to read these because VOCA has specific rules and guides that they require specifically for this particular award. So you're going to want to make sure that you're following these. Like you agree to utilize volunteers. You're going to assist victims seeking compensation with VOCA comp. You're going to provide VOCA-funded victim services at no fee, and you're going to use VOCA funds the VOCA funds will not be used to provide services to perpetrators. So you're agreeing that all of these extra assurances are going to be followed with your VOCA award. Appendix B is just another special conditions that have been applied to us from our VOCA audit. It also applies to all of our subrecipients. So you're going to want to make sure you read over these and understand and follow the special conditions that were implemented for VOCA. Are there any questions over the NOSAs so far?
I haven't seen any come through, Jean. If you guys have any questions, please type them in the chat box. All right, I'm not seeing any. So we'll move on to the section on grant instructions and requirements, or the GIRs. If you have questions at any time, feel free to put them in the chat, even if they were about the beginning part. We'll get back to them. Please pull up that attachment if you have it available with the draft GIRs for state fiscal year 22. It'll be really helpful. So what is the GIRs? The Division of Child and Family Services, or DCFS, Grants Management Unit, GMU, has adopted the Grant Instructions and Requirements GIRs to provide subrecipients with essential information related to the financial and administrative requirements for programs funded through the GMU. So they're your guide to how we want to see those funds administered financially and programmatically through your agency. They apply to all subrecipients, and the state fiscal year 22 GIRs will apply to those awarded for July 1st, 2021 and forward. You have a draft copy of it that I attached to the calendar invite. We don't anticipate large changes. There may be some small grammatical or wording changes, but essentially what we sent out will most likely be what the GIRs end up being. So we had hoped to have them finalized very soon. And when you get your fully executed NOSA that Jean just talked about, you'll get a copy of the GIRs in that email and a copy of your RFR workbook and a copy of your quarterly reporting workbook. So that's a very important email to keep and put all the attachments somewhere very useful for you. Again, that email will come out with your fully executed NOSA, not the draft NOSA that Dean will send you to review and sign. But once you send it back to us and we go through the final approval process and get all the signatures, when we send that executed one back to you, that's where you'll also get the GIRs. All right, so the GIRs numbers, they're all numbered. The sections of the GIRs are identified by the term GIR, followed by the last two digits of the state fiscal year, and then numbered sequentially. For example, GIR 22-1 is GIRs defined, and you'll see that all the way throughout the document. All funding sources are listed in the GIRs with their funding source program codes on page 1. The ones that we oversee are the Family Violence Prevention Services Act, FITSA, VOCA, which is Victims of Crime Act, which you are all subrecipients of for state fiscal year 22, Victims of Domestic Violence or Marriage License or ML. So those are the three main ones that the Victim Services Unit oversees. Each instruction applies to all grants from all funding unless it's otherwise noted. There are a few that have exceptions for Title IV-B, and you'll see those. There aren't any that I can think of that have exceptions for VOCA, so they all apply to VOCA unless it says Title IV-B only. Each subrecipient is instructed to maintain a copy of the GIRs, which will be verified during program or financial or fiscal monitoring. So if we resume doing site visits, we'll ask where you have a copy of the GIRs saved. We can ask that in virtual monitoring if we think that you don't have a copy. If for some reason you don't have a copy, you can always request us to send you a copy of the GIRs, but you should have that readily accessible for staff that need it. Programs that do not follow the instructions and requirements as outlined in the GIRs will jeopardize receiving funds. So it's really important and critical to your funding that you have this, you understand them, you know them. If you have questions on them, you can reach out to us. So quick overview, they're divided into 4 categories: administrative, which is 1 through 7, fiscal, which is 8 through 21, equipment and documents, which is 22 through 24, and monitoring and corrective actions, which is 25 through 29. Here's a list of the GIRs that are in the administrative section. I'm not going to read them all. You guys all have the GIRs and you can read. Here's what's listed under the fiscal. Same again, not going to read them all, but you can read them at your leisure. And here's what's in the equipment and documents. It's a smaller section. And then last, the monitoring and corrective action. So do we have any questions about the GIRs so far, Jean?
I haven't seen any pop up.
Great. So now is the time that if you don't already have the GIRs, the draft GIRs for state fiscal year 22 up, you'll want to pull it up because we're going to play a game called Know Your GIRs, similar to a Jeopardy game. So we're going to pick a category and a point value, and the 2 top individuals will receive a prize. So You'll want to participate. It'll be fun, and hopefully you win a prize. So I'm not seeing anybody saying they don't have it, which is great. Last time we had a lot of that. So Jean, do you want to go ahead and pick the first category and point value, and then when people have the answer, they'll type it in the chat box, and we want to see if it's asking for a specific GIR, we want to see the GIR dash and the number, and if it's asking for something else, please try to do as complete of an answer as you can so you get those points. Some people were pretty fast last time we did this. All right. So hopefully everybody's ready. Jean, what category and point value?
Let's do monitoring for 300, Julie.
Okay. The 4 types of adverse findings identified in the GIRs. So what are the 4 types of adverse findings identified in the GIRs? Jean picked kind of a hard one to start with. That's good. I think we got it, right? It looks like Christy got it. It is lack of adequate records, administrative findings, questions costs, and costs recommended for disallowance. So good job, Christy. If you want to, you can type what category and point value you would like to have for the next question. Fiscal for 200. The GIR that states that any credit card used for subrecipient purchases for expenses must be a credit card issued to a subrecipient, not an employee of the subrecipient. Which GIR says that? Yep, GIR 22-10. Andrea got it. Perfect. Andrea, if you want to pick the next category and point value, that would be great. Administrative for 200. This GIR describes the ways that subrecipients shall collect, maintain, and transmit personal information about services in a manner that ensures security and protects individual privacy. Ian, what do you think? Are we going to accept that one?
I'm good with it.
Okay, so it looks like Amy got it. It's GIR-22-4 and the subject confidentiality. So Amy, if you would like to pick our next category and point value. Administrative for 300. The Code of Federal Regulations, CFR, that the GMU has elected to use as the basis for grant administration, regardless of whether the funds are derived from a federal source or a state fund. Correct. Andrea got that one. It's 2 CFR 200, Grants and Agreements, Uniform Guidance. So, Andrea, go ahead and pick our next category and point value. Location for 100. The GIR that states the date that programmatic and scope of work quarterly reports are required to be submitted to the GMU. GIRs 22-26, subject quarterly report. So I think Lauren was the first one to get that. All right, so Lauren, if you could pick a category and point value. Monitoring for 200. The amount of federal funds expenditures by a subrecipient during a fiscal year that requires them to complete an audit that meets the standards set forth in subpart F of 2 CFR 200. Yeah, we do need Jeopardy music, Jean. You're right. I can't do it. It would be horrible. Yep, Jill got that one, $750,000. So Jill, go ahead and pick the next category and point value. Fiscal for 300. The website that provides samples of indirect cost proposals. Yep. So Andrea typed it in there. It's https://fms/mp_exall2.html. Super easy, right? No, but it's good to know that these are in there, and it can be found in GIRs 22-13, the subject direct and indirect costs. So Andrea, if you want to pick the next category and point value. Location for 400. The GIRs that you should read if you have multiple funding sources. Nope, not that one, Nikki. Yeah, correct, Carrie. It is GIRs 22-12, or cost allocation, and we will be covering cost allocation more in our RFR trainings later on, closer to this next state fiscal year, because that's something that a lot of agencies struggle with. Terry, if you would like to pick the next category and point value, that would be great. Monitoring for 400. All right. The minimum written notification a subrecipient will receive prior to a scheduled fiscal monitoring. And Jill said 15 days. I think she was the fastest. Elizabeth was just split second behind. So Jill got that. It is 15 working days. And that's in GIRs 22-27, procedures for fiscal monitoring and administrative review of external audit. So Jill, go ahead and pick our next category and point value. Location for 200. The GIRs that states that all financial records supporting documents, statistical records, and all other records pertinent to a grant agreement must be retained for a minimum of 3 years. Nope, not that one, Erin. Nope, not that one, Elizabeth. Oh, Lauren got it. Sorry, I don't know why sometimes I don't see all the people's comments. So Lauren got it. It's GIRS 22-24, subject retention and disposal of project documents. All right. Yeah, Elizabeth was typing too fast. All right, go ahead, Lauren, and pick the next category and point value. Administrative for 400. This is how long the subrecipient has to notify the GMU regarding any legal action or negative publicity related to grant-funded events, activities, services, purchases, or outreach. Yep, that's the GIRS is in, but yep, Christy got it immediately. Immediately means as soon as the subrecipient becomes aware of such legal action or negative publicity. So that was in GIRS 22-6 part 3, but Christy got the answer, it's immediately. So Christy, would you like to go ahead and pick our next category and point value? Fiscal for 400. The last day to submit a budget modification request. And we're looking for what the GIRS says, not this year's date. So what's the last day to submit a budget modification request? Yeah, Erin, that's this year's date, but yes, Desiree, it's the last Friday in April. So Desiree, if you, and that can be found in GIRS 22-20, subject end of grant year instructions. And so if you want to go ahead and pick the next category and point value. Location for 300, then we'll only have low point values left. The GIRS that defines itself. Yep, Jill got it. It's GIRS 22-1 or GIRS defined. All right, Jill, if you would like to pick the next category and point. Fiscal for 100. The GIR that contains the procedures to submit requests for reimbursements or RFRs. Whoa, a lot of quick answers on that one. Andrea got that one first. It's GIRS 22-8 or request for reimbursement procedures. You want
Julie,
to go
Nikki,
ahead and, oh, what?
Nikki got it first. Nikki Thorne got it first.
Oh, it says first on mine is Andrea. That's so funny. All right. Nikki, go ahead and pick the next category. See, Andrea said hers was first too. That's so funny. But Nikki picked administrative for 100. This GIR defines the grantor and the subrecipient. Yep, Jill got that first, I saw, right? See? It's GIRS 22-2,
yes.
grantor and subrecipient defined. Okay, good. And Jill, you don't get to pick because there's only one left. Monitoring for 100. The GIRs that outlines the procedures for program site visits and monitoring. Wow, that was quick, Andrea. It is GIRs 22-8. You are correct. All right. So good job, everybody. Thank you for participating. Jean, who are our winners? Do you know, or do you need a moment?
Andrea Orwell is our first winner with 900 points, and Jill Faber is our second winner with 800 points. Congratulations, everybody.
Yeah, good job. So then one more thing I wanted to mention about the GIRs is this year, which is new from last year, is we will be requiring someone from the agency to sign an agreement that they received and understand that the GIRs. So that's a new thing this year. We didn't make people sign it last year. Before we end the training, does anybody have any questions on the GIRs, the NOSA, anything we covered so far, or anything? If you do, you can type them in the chat box. I'm going to go to our contact information. While you're thinking, if you have any questions, I want to, again, thank everybody for participating. I want to also solicit any feedback you have. Did you like playing a game as a training? I thought it would be very boring to read the GIRs to you. So feedback is always welcome and appreciated. Maybe you prefer just to be read to. I don't know. So we'll give people about a minute more to put any questions they want in the chat box. And if not, we'll give you guys some of your time back. Jean, I'm not seeing any questions. Do you have any final comments you'd like to give?
Nope. If you guys have any questions that pop up, go ahead and feel free to email either myself or Julie, and we're happy to help you with any questions that you may have through the next fiscal year. Oh, we did have a question pop up. Will a new GIRs come out without the draft? Yes. Once you get your executed NOSA, you'll also receive the official GIRs.
We're in the final stages of getting them approved. So we don't anticipate any large changes, but there might be some small changes to the draft that went out. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week and day. And thank you again for attending the training.